Today I want to show you how I use dynamic lines. I've brought some ideas of applications where I like to use dynamic lines. Have a look together with me how these dynamic lines are created. The nice thing of dynamic lines is that we can use them either to show averages or totals, averages on actual as an example here, even use it for deviations, and of course this would follow the different data we keyed in. So if I put 0.5 here as actuals in August line, immediately the average of actual would change and the variances are changing, which is a welcome effect here. Well, let's start and show you how you implement these dynamic lines. You have a simple chart to illustrate these dynamic lines. We have a plan, we have an actual, and we would like to have a horizontal line here and one here to show the variance. So one option, what you can do is you go to insert shapes, go for the line, and then, well, just make a line. So also I might not like the color now here. This is how you could do it, and then you would go for a second line and ready you are for the chart. Well, this is fine to me for ad hoc analysis if we have to make a one-off presentation. But of course, if we want to use the template every month, every quarter, every year, it is sensible to have a dynamic line which is following the actuals and not staying at the place where we have inserted the line. So let's go back to the numbers, delete the horizontal line, and let's show how we do it. Actually, it's like mathematics, and here I can refer back to the video of dynamic labels. It's kind of the same trick applied differently. So what I have done here is I have already prepared the XY coordinates for a line. So as we know from maths, we need 2 points. One point where the line starts off and a second coordinate, second point where the line should go to. So let's do this first for the Y, the vertical axis, which is the more known here. So obviously, if we wanted to have a horizontal line, the Y coordinate should equal to plan for the plan line, as we would like to start here on the 60 level and then horizontally go to the right. So the right point, as it's the same horizontal level, would have as well the planned data where we wanted to see the second point. So the question now is, which are the X coordinates? Well, Excel numbers the columns. So the X coordinate would be in the middle of the plan column, and here in the middle of the actual, and just numbering. So 1 is here, 2 is the second column, etc., etc., which means that 1.5 is here in the middle, and the edge here is somewhere in between 1 and 1.5, perhaps 125, 1.2, 1.3. Does not matter, we can finally try it out, because this point here does not move on the X coordinate, on the horizontal line. Only the vertical line will have a dynamic feature here. So let's just start with 1.3 and have a look afterwards if this fits or not. When it comes to the second point X coordinate, let's assume we want that the line stops somewhere here, which we can consider to be number 3 then in a row. But as I said, this we're going to see once we have done it. Well, the same thing we can do for the actual lines, of course, when it comes to the coordinates. They start, well, not 1.3 obviously, we have 2 here, so let's assume it's 1.3. So to make this dynamic as well, we would take the coordinate of the plan plus 1, as it's 1 column to the right. we have the same 3 here. So this is the ones I like to color, where we can kind of configure the other point will follow. When it comes to the vertical position, of course, this equals actual, as well as for the second point, this equals actual here. So as always, you will be able to download the template so that you can use it for yourself. Well, let's start implementing. What we need is select data. And well, we have a first series, which I'm going to give the name sales, and we'll add one, which will give the name of plan line. And then what you can see here is we can already give an input on the y values, which in our example are these two here, the 60. What we cannot see is that we have a chance to input our x coordinates. And the reason is that Excel is expecting another column row. Excel does not know that we want now to switch from columns to lines yet. So let's just put OK and don't frighten, please, so we can see the columns. So at least they look like, okay, we have the correct y coordinate. And now we have to select these columns and tell them, change chart type, that you're not a column, but you're a line. But please, not the normal line chart, because the normal line chart, again, only gives you the option to put the y input, the y coordinates, and automatically would take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. for the x coordinates. But if I wanted to use my own x coordinates, like 1.3 or 2.3, we have to choose the xy scatter chart. Look at this, and here we have the alternative of scatters with straight lines, where we don't see the points. So this is the chart we are going to need here. And we already see the result, which is here on the very left. Obviously, the x coordinates start with 1 and ends with 2. The reason is that we have not given the input yet. So Excel automatically is taking the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. if needed. So what we need to do is select data again, go on the plan line, and now you can see the x values input field is active, and we can key in the 2 coordinates for the x axis. And what we can see is it's pretty fine. The 1.3 was a little bit too much, so 1.25 perhaps would connect directly. Now you have the feeling that the line is a little bit above the 60. So there are 2 options. Either you put a frame around the columns, or what you could do is use the cell next to here to have a correction. So multiply the 60 by a correction factor. So downsize it to 59 perhaps. Well, it's too much, 59.5 might fit exactly. So I would never do it with the coordinates, because now it's not dynamic anymore. So you would still go for the plan, but then multiply it with a correction, which I take from this field, let's assume. So I would multiply it here with the, let's say, 0.95. Well, it's too much, 0.99, which is pretty well. So now it's done. So this would be kind of the delta here. This would refer down to the coordinate, so make it a straight line again. So these are details which are cosmetics only, but still to have an idea. And of course the same thing we can do now for our actual line. Select data. Just to repeat what we have done, we go for the actual line now, and as we have used the scatter chart latest, we have now immediately also the X value field for our input available here. Which means that it would immediately work out. Well, the colors are not nice. You can change this to black, of course, now. Just as an additional exercise to show, if you wanted to have a variance line now, the numbers, the coordinates are already there. We just need to put it. So let's assume that we start with the planned line. We would say, okay, we start with the end of the planned line. We take this one. And we start, of course, with the end of the planned line. So this is the point coordinate, which is exactly here. And for the actual, we would refer to the end line of the actuals. So link it to the last point here, which is the actual. And we are ready to go. So again, to repeat it, select data, add another series. The name now would be the variance line. X coordinates, the 3. Y coordinates, the Y. And we are done. The nice thing is when we looked at the format data here, we can, and it's nice, we can choose now a type of arrows. I'll put this a little bit into the scene. And the arrow, this is what we're looking for. And we would see quite a nice line with a point, which of course now is dynamic. How to put here now the -30 of the variance is shown in my video dynamic labels. And again, here an idea how these lines can be used. I hope you like the idea of dynamic lines, and I want to refer to my video of dynamic labels.